All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, recording during the second quarter of Sunday Night Football, recording during the top of the third, Mets Dodgers. We're going to talk about all of Week 7. We'll talk about Week's 8 openers in the NFL, Monday Night Football, Ravens-Bucs and Chargers-Cardinals, and we'll close out with a little NBA MVP chat with the season tipping off on Tuesday night. Let's get into it, though, Drew, with the Sunday slate of the NFL. And where I think we should start is, how have you changed your opinion about Kansas City and San Francisco?
Can we just fast forward to NBA? Boy. San Francisco was a humongous disappointment today. I'm looking at my first losing. I've been treading water generally this season, mostly been small winning weeks. So it's been a great season. And anytime you can win money betting the NFL, you feel good. Today I got my teeth kicked in. And I had some winning looks, but in general, that Niners outcome was awful. And Brock Purdy was just, it didn't really feel like there was a good excuse this time, which is annoying, right? If you can point to, well, he was concussed, or he was up against Mike McDonald defense, and they were confusing him early, and it all came unglued. Like, it came unglued early for Purdy, and some of the mistakes he made, I was pretty disappointed by, and I come out of that game just wildly unimpressed by the Chiefs. Like, I don't know how they're getting away with this. I do not know how they're the last undefeated team. They should have been in much more distress than we ultimately saw. Kareem Hunt is your featured player here. He was 22 carries for 78 yards, but he got the 2 hard touchdowns. There was a lot of special teams and just in general boneheaded moves by the Niners that really helped, kind of keep this game in the mix, I thought, for the Chiefs. And coming out of this game, you have to downgrade the Niners for 2 reasons. Number one, I don't think Purdy and Shanahan really are on the same page right now, constructing anywhere close to the same level of offense we saw from them last year. And now you take Brandon Ayuk out of the picture, as he is likely done for the season with the torn ACL. I was fuming about Ayuk's performance in this game in particular, because I'm just like, the drop, when in the first half, when it felt like, okay, now is the time the Niners really got to get their feet under them and put together a solid drive here, put some points on the board, force the Chiefs to convert some difficult third downs. No, Ayuk drops the ball, they punt it back, and the game never really felt like it was that in reach for the Niners. They were always kind of scrambling to get in range. So hugely disappointed in what San Francisco put on tape today. And the 3 interceptions by Brock Purdy, you can hand wave to a degree the fact that there was some tips and some pressure that really kind of helped feed into that. But the rest of the Niners are not playing well enough right now to gloss over those types of mistakes. And I think, you have to kind of come into this situation now with the Niners as the NFC West might be havable. Seahawks looked amazing now that they have a healthy defense. They get another crack at the Niners relatively soon. The Rams got their feet under them against a Raiders team, obviously, that was not necessarily trying to win. So if I'm a 3-4 Niners, I'm not all of a sudden feeling like my spot at the dance is guaranteed.
No, they could absolutely miss the playoffs. I'd cool it a bit on the Seahawks. I mean, their rush defense is still horrific, and Bijan Robinson was doing whatever he wanted. I'm not sure there's a fix for that. Looks like DK Metcalf's injury isn't too bad, but I still don't think that's a particularly good defense. I mean, the Falcons moved the ball pretty well. I think they had a better success rate on offense than the Seahawks did. It's just that Kirk Cousins was a 0 out of 10. And I was watching a lot of that game, and it didn't show up in the stats that much until towards the end when he started. I think when he added the second pick, it muddied up his stat line. But Cousins was dreadful. Like even not just the picks, but he's sailing open passes. He just can't move at all. And yeah, it did not look good for Kirk and how that might trend for the rest of the season when he might have to play some better defenses and some better pass rushes than Seattle. Do you think the Lions are clearly the best team in the NFC right now?
I do. I have them as tied with the Ravens as the best offense in the NFL. And the fact that their defense was able to absorb the what we saw from a very good unit in terms of talent and scheme, I think is a positive sign for that defense in the absence of Aiden Hutchinson. They still had issues in terms of putting away a team. Surprise, surprise, if you don't have an elite pass rush off the edge who could create pressure and get those game-clinching sacks, it's going to be tough to put away an opponent who has a pulse. But I would also say that the offense knows they know the homework. They know what's being asked of them. It is to continue to score points. And the fact that you had a little bit of a question mark early of, ooh, Montgomery, is he hurt? Is he going to be back? And then they leaned into Gibbs, who was electric on the one drive that really helped set that offense up as kind of get their feet under them. It was like, okay, yeah, wow, okay, these guys are amazing. Ben Johnson is pushing all the right buttons at all the right times. And Jared Goff, for what it's worth, is capable of executing at a very, very high level because he is being given time. This offensive line is performing at an elite level, and his wide receivers are creating separation. There are very few teams you can look at and say, wow, elite pass protection, elite skill position players who are able to create separation. And the Lions are one of the few that are able to check both of those boxes. And when Jared Goff is protected, and he's playing in a controlled environment, and he has receivers who are creating separation, he's masterful, and he's doing it effectively enough that I think the Lions are the team to beat at this moment in the NFC.
Yeah, thought Goff was very good today. He's now the fourth favorite to win MVP, which I think is a little bit aggressive. He's 8-1 now to win MVP. I'll just say that I've been sucked into the Jared Goff MVP hysteria before, and the disaster game is always around the corner with Jared. And he almost kind of had his disaster moment today when he had the fumble at the end, or just before the final drive that really could have ended the game. It's just, he's not quite at the MVP level, I think. And maybe he can get away with it for 10 weeks and they can be the 1 seed, and he plays indoors a lot. But yeah, I would have him. Like Joe Burrow is double Jared Goff's price right now, and I think the Burrow is more likely to win them than Goff. But we talk about that at a later time. Let's jump to the openers. Any opener in particular grab your attention?
Well, you clearly want to try to look towards the games where you had teams with big swings in terms of change, and the Browns are at the top of the list. This is now presumably going to be Jameis Winston, I would assume. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was absolutely lost. I cannot imagine any universe where he is trotted out against this Ravens defense, but yeah, I think a 10-point advantage for the Ravens, even though we have not seen them play this week, is a reasonable head start. And I would expect that, yes, if this is Winston, maybe it ticks a hair under 10. But if this is DTR getting the call for the Browns, then my goodness gracious, I will be laying 10 points with Baltimore on the road. I think the Packers-Jaguars number was interesting to me. This has gotten bet, it's gotten bet a little bit after the open, as there are some people believing in this Packers team, which I kind of agree with. I think a bit. The Packers have been, quietly just getting it done. Then we can talk a little bit more about the degree to which they should have beaten the Texans today. I think probably should have been by more than 2 points, but taking on a Jags team that's coming home from London that may be making a coaching change is intriguing to me. This Packers squad certainly can press enough buttons to really pressure a Jags defense much more so than we saw the New England Patriots do today. And I think that 4.5 probably drifts out to 6.
Okay. Yeah, if it gets to 6, then I would like Jacksonville, I think. I think that the Jags, as dreadful as they have looked at times, I still think there is a good deal of talent on that team. And I think that a lot of their failings there have been some luck-based elements, even though, I'm not saying they're a particularly good team. And coming back from London also will hurt them as well, though it does help that they are at home. One other one that I thought was interesting, the Eagles and Bengals. The Bengals are 2.5-point favorites at home. So market is saying that these teams are basically even, the Bengals slightly better. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that one's a little bit tricky because the look ahead here was Bengals -3, and nothing happened to the Bengals today that would make you meaningfully downgrade them. And the Eagles just beat the tar out of a Giants team that it feels like threw up the white flag a little. So I'm not sure what warrants an upgrade for the Eagles to take this off of 3. I'm going to be on the Bengals this week. And I'm probably going to either bleed or make my money back fading this Eagles team. But right now, I think the market holding them up as anywhere close to a top 8 unit in the NFL is not correct.
Okay. And last one for us, Cowboys 49ers, the Sunday night game. Niners are 6-point favorites, which I think reflects the absence of Ayuk, the absence of MVP Brock Purdy, which has sailed well out into the Pacific Ocean. Do you think that the Cowboys, do you think there is a chance that, expect they'll get Micah Parsons back? They'll have Deron Bland out there. It's opposite Trayvon Diggs, and they should just be healthier in general. Do you think there is a chance that they have figured something out in the bye, and that this kind of regresses more to the team that, came in with Super Bowl expectations?
I think so. I'm a little surprised that this is still 6. I thought that this was going to come off of off the key and would be like, I don't know, 5.5. The return of Parsons is obviously humongous. He's had a little bit of a down season so far, just in terms of the way he has played. It hasn't been quite as disruptive as it was last year. And I think the time to recover and recuperate is going to serve him well. And certainly it does seem like if you can generate pressure on Brock Purdy, you could bring out the worst in him. We saw that at times today against the Chiefs. I imagine that the absence of Ayuk is going to matter. Pretty clearly, this is a team that, desperately needs more, quality balance out of their rushing attack than they're currently getting. Some of that is because of the way the offensive line is playing. Some of that is because Jordan Mason is Jordan Mason. He's not Christian McCaffrey. And so I think ultimately this is Dallas or pass. And I can't believe I'm saying that as someone who lost money on Dallas last week and lost money on the Niners this week.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. All right, let's jump to Monday night. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites in Tampa Bay. The total is 50 flat. It's kind of strange to think about it like this, but if the Bucs win this game and go to 5-2, and that would make them the kind of temporary 2 seed in the NFC, I think that, and none of this matters that much because there'll still be 10 weeks to go, but I think that at that point, Baker Mayfield would be like the MVP leader in the clubhouse, given that he's got like 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, that he would knock Lamar Jackson off the perch. I mean, you can make an argument for Josh Allen, I suppose. But yeah, that's how well Baker has played and this Bucs offense has played. How real do you think that this Tampa Bay offense is, where last season they were I think fairly prehistoric with Dave Canales, the way that they would overemphasize run, pass, and a pass rate below expectations, sub-zero in that department. Now I believe they're third in the NFL in pass rate over expectation. I think it's just the Seahawks and the Bengals in front of them. Chris Godwin looks like, looks Cooper Cup-ish. And they haven't even gotten that much out of Mike Evans so far relative to last season. It's a solid offensive line. And look, Baker is good whenever you keep him clean. So how real do you think the Bucs offense is? Is it a legit kind of top 5-7 unit?
On the scale of 0% to 100% real, they're 99. They're very, very, very close to 100% real. And I say that because they are well coordinated, honestly. Like I am impressed with what Liam Cohen is doing in general. And I think that the fact that they have a complementary running game just makes the pass offense that much more dangerous. Really, really solid pass protection. You have some of the better offensive line play in the league right now. And if you can protect Baker Mayfield, and if you have elite weapons to throw to, and then you have a complementary running game, then it's real. And I think there is a hair of their opponents have been pretty unimpressive to this point in the season that I will listen to the arguments of, there is a stinker coming. But I would also say that the fact that the Ravens are effectively a pass funnel and they're extremely solid against the run, but extremely weak against the pass, sets up well hand in glove for the strength of this Buccaneers offense. And so if Liam and company are aggressive in this game, if they are continuing to press the pass rate over expectation button, like, hey, let's throw on first and second downs and let's really test these guys, I think that will bear fruit. And then the flip side of the equation, which is the Ravens offense, which again, like I hold next to the Lions as the best in the NFL, it should have success against this Tampa Bay defense through the air, but maybe not as much on the ground. And really, a lot of what has really made the Baltimore offense, I think, sing so spectacularly this season is the duality of being able to hurt you on the ground combined with the pass game. And so I think if the kind of signature Todd Bowles run stop shows up in this one, if the Vita Vea play that we've seen through 6 weeks carries forward, then you could see the Tampa Bay say, hey, Baltimore, beat us with your right hand tied behind your back, beat us with your offhand, we'll do it. And they can, but I think that that's a little bit more of a challenge than the market is recognizing, contrast in strong degree with the fact that the strong hand for the Buccaneers offense gets to go against the weak part of the Ravens defense, at least for now. So there may be weeks later in the season where we see an opponent that is set up to challenge this Buccaneers offense to the tune of them looking bad. But I think that they can get the better of these Ravens.
Yeah, I think that's certainly in play. I believe in the offense to some degree. I do think it is somewhat a product of who they have played so far. And I do think as well, like Baker is benefiting a lot from Yak, which, is part of the scheme. And that's what Chris Godwin does well. At the same time, against the Saints, who apparently have just a garbage defense now, against the Saints on throws that traveled 10 plus yards, Baker was 1 for 10 with 2 picks. Which I think is a problem. And I haven't seen that brought up that much because they've scored 51 points and he had the 4 touchdowns, but that would be a concern for me. I think particularly if the Bucs win this game, there is going to be a lot of Goff and Mayfield hype this week and a lot of Goff and Mayfield MVP stuff. And I think that, there are worlds where those guys could continue that. But I think the most likely thing is that both comes crashing down for both of them because that's what usually happens with their seasons. And your MVP ultimately is one of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Joe Burrow because they're the 4 best quarterbacks in football. And those are the guys who probably have the most staying power. Let's jump to Chargers-Cardinals. The Chargers are 1.5 point favorites in Arizona. The total is 44. I've been a little surprised, not that it's unjustified or anything, but a little surprised by how much the market has adored the Chargers in the past couple of weeks, particularly that, being a field goal favorite in Denver, which just seemed a little, a little surprising, even though they ended up covering with ease. How high is your LA optimism at the moment?
It's not very high, and I would read the market differently. You to a degree. I mean, obviously the market, you're right. Like the market was just absolutely glowing with optimism for them last week. And I'm assuming that was mostly because there was very positive news about the availability of the offensive linemen, which really is sort of the kind of crux of handicapping this team. If they are at full strength on the O-line, then they are a problem. And they're going to be able to play ball control. They're going to be able to create, positive down and distance. And I think that just in general, the fact that they're up against a Cardinals defense that's pretty weak should spell success for the Chargers offensively in this game. But the Chargers defense right now, by market, at least according to Unpredictable, which does a nice job of sort of synthesizing this week, next week, last week market ratings for teams, would tell you that this is the number one rated defense in the NFL in terms of generic points against. And I take humongous exception to that. I do not think that this Chargers defense is really much to write home about at all. They have gone up against some very, very weak competition this year, and they are reaping the benefits of opponent quarterbacks to this point in the season that is going to be exposed against Kyler Murray, I think. Now, that does not have me running to the window to smash Cardinals, although many people have, as this is now almost down to one, which is really one of the more convicted sides we've seen people take this week, which is saying that Chargers have a dogfight on their hands. But I'm happy to be sitting on an over that now has some significant equity, as this is now sitting at 44. I think these are both offenses that should have a decent amount of success on Monday night. And while I don't really strongly disagree with the Chargers as favorites, I think that there is still room to the over at 44. My fair total on this one is almost 46. So I think this is going to be a higher scoring affair. And I think there's going to be a bit of a correction on the Chargers defense. I'm not seeing it with the back, outside of their extremely solid pass rush. I'm just not sure what warrants kind of extreme respect for this defense, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think as well that it's kind of reminiscent of, well, it's a little bit different. The team they played last week, the Broncos, who came into the season and everyone expected them to have a bad defense, and they've had an elite defense statistically like the Chargers, but the Broncos actually have, seems like you can pinpoint specific players who have gotten a lot better. There's Riley Moss at corner. There's Brandon Jones having a great season at safety. The D-line is just kind of massive and has been effective pass rushing. And then there's Pat Surtain, who is perhaps the best corner in the NFL. So it kind of makes sense that the Broncos would have an elite defense defying expectations because they have individual players who have defied expectations. With the Chargers, who outside of Khalil Mack and Derwin James, who are the good defensive players? If Joey Bosa's hurt, who are the good ones? I don't understand. Who's
Jay? I'm asking this every week. I don't understand. I really don't. And if it's just coaching, if it's literally just what they're being asked to do and the development of these unheralded names, then my goodness gracious, I am not pricing defensive coaching correctly.
Yeah, and I think it's been an interesting experiment with Mike McDonald in Seattle, who, by all accounts, is, perhaps the best defensive mind in the sport and came in with that pedigree. And I think he lended a lot of credence to the idea that he was, the guy defensively, and that everyone off his staff keeps getting hired as well. And he doesn't have amazing personnel in Seattle, and they just haven't been that good so far this season, which I think would be, it's not definitive or anything, but would be a tick in the in the box for personnel mattering a ton, which is perhaps no surprise. But yeah, I think the Chargers are probably going to settle in as my best guess would be they settle in as a average, maybe even slightly above average defense if they're really well coached. But the idea that this would be a top 5 defense, I wouldn't really be buying.
Yeah. For the record, right now, I rate the Chargers as the 13th best defense in the NFL.
Seems very reasonable. All right, before we get to NBA MVP, 2 storied franchises renew their rivalry on Sunday night. Find out if Dak Prescott and the Cowboys can get back on track after their bye week when they face off against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Coverage of the matchup starts at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay. National Basketball Association.
Yes.
Valuable player. Obviously be talking a lot about the NBA as the season progresses, but let's jump into MVP. Luka Doncic is the favorite, as he tends to be, though this season perhaps with a bit more merit than previous go-rounds as the favorite. He's plus 350, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plus 400. Nikola Jokic rounds out what I would call the top tier. He's plus 475. Giannis exists in kind of a second tier by himself at plus 850. Then you have Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Tatum, Wemby. Joel Embiid is 25-1 after he said that he will probably not be playing back-to-backs the rest of his career. I think the Sixers have like 16 back-to-backs or something, so that would seemingly take him pretty much out of consideration for MVP. Do you think there is a bet to be made in the market?
Oh, dude, I've been dying to talk to you about this. I think that your qualifying tiers based on price.
Yes,
that's correct. I realistically think, though, that MVP this year, tier 1, has more candidates than it ever has. And the reason is, I think that your names at the top, those top 3 guys that are all shorter than 5-1, they are all weak candidates. I think Doncic is weak on the fact that he played deep into last season, and I need to see him be ready to go physically to believe that he is going to be able to pick it up where he left off and not have a little bit of a slump, which has been sort of the signature of him playing deep into the postseason coming into the next season week. And so I think Doncic might have a little bit of a slow start. I think SGA is always going to be subject to people not really believing that he's good enough to be warranting MVP consideration, even if the Thunder are the clear 1 seed in the West. And I think Jokic is at risk of kind of clearly looking like being the most important player on a team that will look like it has taken a step back compared to last season as terms of regular season success. I have huge questions about what's going on with the Nuggets roster just beyond Jokic. And that's not to say that he doesn't belong in the conversation, because he's clearly the best player in basketball. And so it's tough to fade a player like that. But I think the Nuggets are in a little bit of tough spot to get a clear and obvious top 2 seed, which makes his case a little squishy. And then once you get to the second tier there's warts on all of these guys. I really just see a little bit of a flat earth across about 11 to 12 players in the MVP market, which I think makes this a really, really fun handicap. As we sit here today, I have made 2 bets. I took Kevin Durant at 90-1 because I'm projecting a very close call for who is your 1 seed in the West between OKC and Phoenix as currently rostered. And then I took a bet on Tatum at 18-1 because I think Tatum and the Celtics could lap the field this year in terms of wins. I'm projecting them as the only team to get to 60. And I think they're the only team that has the upside to get into the high 60s, to which point, he would be, potentially the beneficiary of some shooting variance to the good after a year of poor shooting luck. And then combine that with the fact that, he is sort of the most important piece on a, 65 or more win team. It may just be undeniable that he's the guy.
Okay. To me, the most interesting question outside of the top, say 4 guys, is whether Jason Tatum has another gear that he can get to as a player. Because if he is the same talent level that he was last season, then he's not good enough to win MVP. He would need, I think, some pretty outrageous shooting improvement and variance there. And I mean, he shot 37.6% from 3, but he's 26 years old. And in theory, he still has areas of his game that he can grow. I think he's always going to kind of top out as an okay, solid, better than Jaylen Brown passer, but never an elite passer. Having watched an ungodly amount of Jason Tatum in my life, which has for the most part been a pleasurable experience, but gotten to know the warts of his game, and he just isn't ultra cerebral. He's the type of person who is, to kind of in the abstract compare his passing, it doesn't come naturally, and it's like he's trying to remember the words with his passing. He's trying to remember where he was told all the players would be in the play, that type of thing, as opposed to, say, Nikola Jokic, who is just out there kind of with a paintbrush, and everything comes to him extremely naturally. So do you think that Tatum, there is an area of his game that he can improve? Like the most obvious one to me that jumps out is just pull up 3-point jump shooting, which has not been great for him, I think, the past couple of years.
That's it entirely. And honestly, like if the there should be some gravity that just pulls that number up, on top of the fact that you have enough people to care about. And, honestly, Jaylen Brown should warrant more attention from defenses this year. That alone should create potentially more opportunities for him to be an effective piece offensively. I literally just, if Tatum has a good year shooting 3, then the Celtics are winning 65 games, and they're going to be the 1 seed in the East by 5 or 6 win margin. And the West is so muddy and so close, and there are so many good teams that I could see that just the gravity of Tatum, the Celtics as a team being unstoppable might be enough to launch his case, even if advanced stats, EPM, are a little bit penalizing him, because I agree, like there are like his I do think that his offense has a ceiling, but the fact that he is such a humongously important piece for what the Celtics want to do defensively makes me think that they're going to continue to beat good teams in the regular season, and they can, they've flat out said it, like they're going to feature the B squad against the bad teams, and they're still going to win. And so the Celtics team might just be an absolute truck this year. And if his shooting is good from 3, then he's going to be at the top of the boards in terms of leading everything on a team that is, doing historic things.
Yeah, with the advanced stats, I mean, by EPM, he's never gotten to even +6, but in Darko, he is the second best player in the NBA after Nikola Jokic. And actually, I spoke to Kostya, who created Darko, about that. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing bits of the conversation, but he said that what people don't appreciate enough about Tatum is the value of defensive versatility and off-ball defense, which doesn't show up as much in the box score. And we talked about this ton in the finals. And I always feel like I'm defending
that was the entire handicap of the finals.
I think it's so difficult for people to grasp how insanely valuable it is to have your on-ball perimeter offensive star also be able to play center on defense and guard Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Like, that is just not a luxury that most teams have, and that's what makes Tatum most special, is that he is just a massive person while being able to do, all the things that he can do on offense. Yeah, he doesn't do it at the same level as Luka or SGA. Or Jokic if we're bringing in big men, but his defensive versatility is more valuable than any of those guys on the other side of the ball. I want to throw out, firstly, I would say that I think that Doncic, Shea, Jokic, Giannis on a per-game basis, Embiid, but I think we have to kind of throw Embiid out until it gets proven that he's lying about the back-to-backs, which would be a strange thing to lie about. But I think those 5 guys are probably just more talented than the rest of the league. I mean, they were all +7 or above EPM last year, and no one else was above +6. I think guys like, until proven otherwise, I just don't think Anthony Edwards yet or Jalen Brunson have an MVP talent ceiling. Certainly Brunson, maybe Edwards can take a massive leap, but I don't think he's quite in that ballpark yet. So I think I would have the top 4 guys as the top 4 guys. And I think the order can be argued. You could argue that Giannis should perhaps be closer to those top 3. But yeah, I wouldn't have too many qualms with that. Fun one, it's a long shot. What do you think happens if Tyrese Halliburton does what he did the first 2 months of last season, and the Pacers have, again, like the greatest offense of all time, and they're a top 2 seed? Do you think there's any way that he could get in the MVP discussion in a similar way to like Steve Nash on the Suns in his 2 wins, or is the defensive value and the way that reflects on advanced stats, does that just make him too poisonous as a candidate?
Yeah, there's no OPOY for the NBA, right?
Yeah, Steve Nash did win 2 MVPs.
He did. I would love your takes on the Pacers broadly. If I fire Benny Mathurin into the sun and assume he plays 0 minutes for the Pacers this year, then the Pacers to me are a top 3 seed in the East, and they're a dynamite. They're a dynamite option for awards and everything. If I assume that part of their calculus this season is his development, which means he's going to have to see floor time, then I have the Pacers as very much on the bubble of a play-in spot. Not of a play-in spot, but like they're right there at 6, 7, 8 for me. And if you are down there in terms of team wins, I don't care if Halliburton is having otherwise the season of a lifetime as far as an offensive engine. It's just tough that you're going to be given consideration for MVP. And so, yeah, I think it's strange how much a player who didn't matter at all to them last year in their playoff run matters to understanding how their regular season is going to go this year. But I don't hate a long shot price on a player like Halliburton, because his offense was, it was top 3 NBA wise, and it could take a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think for 2 months he was probably the second best offensive player in the league behind Jokic, and then maybe there was some shooting luck that's unsustainable about that, but I think he certainly looked the part. The way I would think about it is the Pacers are +290 to win their division. If they finish with a better record than Cleveland or Milwaukee, then they're a very good chance to be a top 2 seed. And the only way that they would get there, presumably, is with an all-time elite offense, and that is going to be driven by Halliburton. So, look, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is going to win MVP, but I thought he's the same price as Jaylen Brown. Like, Jaylen Brown can't win MVP. I'm sorry. And I think there are small worlds where Halliburton can. Also, how dare you blaspheme the good name of Benedict Mathurin, who I may or may not be invested in to win Sixth Man of the Year, even though I don't think he's very good at basketball, but he is year 3.
Hey, man, if he's good at basketball, then get your Pacers futures in now.
Yeah, I don't think he is, but I think that he can put up points and fulfill the 6-man role and average, 15, 16 a game for a potential top 4 seed, which would be a good case. And he shoots pretty efficiently. It's funny because he's not super efficient, but he's efficient enough as a scorer. It's just the defense is so seemingly horrific.
It is so bad. Yeah.
Caitlin Cooper had a good thread about Mathurin and how he's made some kind of improvements around the edges that have reflected in preseason. So perhaps there is hope yet for Benedict, but I won't hold my breath.
Do you, just in general, I just got to get your temperature on the Suns. Do you think they're overrated? There's been a lot of very casuals, and not even just casuals, but we'll say NBA handicapping voices that are not doing it mathematically that have been very high on Phoenix, which is making me a little nervous that I'm on Phoenix.
The way I would think about Phoenix is I think they are going to be an awesome regular season team, and I don't really see their ceiling to be a team that makes the finals. And obviously they can make the finals if they're going to be a really good regular season team, but I think there is a pretty big gap between there's a chance that Bud just has them as a regular season wins machine, and they have a ton of shooting and they have a lot of low hanging fruit. I just think if they suffer, if what happens if Yusuf Nurkic gets hurt? What happens?
Disaster.
Disaster. I just don't think they have the ceiling defensively in the playoffs in terms of versatility or playing with force. I think that Minnesota series was really instructive. Where it was kind of like it was, to me, it reminded me of the week 2 game of the Dolphins against the Bills, where the Dolphins are the Suns and the Bills are just trucking them physically. I just worry about Phoenix's ceiling, but regular season wise, I think they'll win 50 plus games. Them and the Cavs overs would be my 2. Well, I guess Strus got hurt, so that puts a bit of a dampener on that, but Phoenix over 46.5, I would have thought that should be, more like 50.5.
Yeah, if I could only have one win total, it would be Phoenix. I agree.
I would agree with that now that Strus is hurt. Yeah, Phoenix would be my bet too. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.